Terrible.
I mean, there's not as much of a rainbow effect as I wanted, but okay.
Can there ever be enough rainbow effect, though?
Yeah, there's a little bit. It's a little bit. Okay. We are live. Hello, YouTube. So we posted on our Instagram story we was going to go live and answer your questions. So we got some questions. Some questions.
Some questions. I think maybe in the future we post about it more ahead of time, or like do it in one of our videos here, so people can drop it in the comments, or you can drop it in the comments on this one. Let us know what you want to learn more about.
It's hard though because we don't actually know what time we're going to be able to go live because every day is different.
Every day is a little bit different.
Every day is like totally different. So we just got to do, we're just doing our best here, giving it the old college try. Okay, so let's just start with these ones. So,
okay.
How do I pick a weightlifting belt and when and why do I use it? Or is a waist trainer an acceptable stand-in?
I would say, first of all, a waist trainer is not a stand-in for a weight belt, nor should you wear a waist trainer while you wear resistance training. I think that for a couple of different reasons, and of course it depends on the waist trainer that you use too, but in like some of the thicker ribbed ones, like the Squeeze Me Skinny or like the corset trainers, it actually inhibits your core from engaging. So you're losing core engagement during your training. It's also not doing its job to protect your back, which is the primary reason that we wear a training belt. I use one that's a little bit thicker leather, and I like leather more than the fabric ones. And I think you too.
Yeah, I mean, I like both. I'm biased toward aesthetics because they're that brand.
They make some dope belts.
They're that bodybuilding brand.
And they do custom belts.
They do custom belts, but I've had both. I've had the neoprene-ish ones, which I do like those because sometimes they're multi-purpose. Like sometimes a neoprene belt that's got a carabiner on it can actually double as like a belt that you can actually attach weight to. So you can cinch it down as a weightlifting belt, but then you can also use it for like weighted dips and pull-ups and all that stuff. So that's one benefit to that one. And I would say that one is a little bit easier to adjust versus like the holes and what's too tight and what's not too tight. Like too tight, like you probably have less risk of giving yourself a hernia if you're less
Which we've both done.
So you have less risk of that if you don't use a leather belt with the holes. But I mean, I wear my leather belt over my neoprene one every day. So I guess that would be my biased opinion.
Mm-hmm.
Odin, oh my gosh, you guys, I have a shepherd. We just
He's needy.
Go away.
He wants to be on the TV.
But yeah, my thoughts on that are pretty similar. So a waist trainer is not a good stand-in for a lifting belt. A lifting belt for me, honestly, just I don't like to wear it super tight, but I like to use it. It's like a reminder to engage my core. Mm-hmm. So keeping everything tight before I do a lift, like sometimes we can, I call it ab discipline. If you're lacking ab discipline in your training, that's going to show on stage. It's going to show when you're walking around. And so I think that when you have that tight enough to just be aware of it, it helps you a lot. And like she said, it supports your back a lot too when you're doing those heavy lifts, and it gives you something to brace against. But I mean, if you're not lifting, like if you're not pushing heavy sets, I still think you should wear a lifting belt.
I think for
on the compounds.
For
on the compounds.
So like squats, deadlifts, RDLs. Maybe not so much when you're doing like a leg press. I think it kind of gets in the way when you're trying to do a leg press. I don't know. I work with some girls who wear it like all the time. Doesn't matter what they're training. We're training shoulders. They're wearing a lifting belt. So
yes, I wouldn't do it when doing a leg press, but like you don't need it for like a glute kickback. But I mean, you can if it's on and you don't feel like taking it off. Just
I would also not wear it while you're doing anything pronated or laying on your stomach.
Oh yeah, and a lot of gyms won't allow that either because it'll mess up the equipment.
It'll mess up the equipment.
Okay, I think we answered that one pretty well rounded. Okay, would I ever visit Houston, Texas, or would we ever visit Houston, Texas?
I have visited Houston, Texas.
I'll go anywhere in Texas.
I love Texas.
Yeah,
and I love Florida.
Yeah, no, I love Texas. I would absolutely visit Houston, Texas. Okay, what's the typical PED protocol for wellness?
There is not a typical anything.
There's not
honestly.
a typical PED protocol for any division. I mean,
it's very person specific, depending on what you need, what point you are in contest prep. And that's really something that has to be addressed with your coach. And all the while, like anytime we're talking about PEDs, you have to keep up on blood work. Like that's super essential, especially when you're deep into it. You want to get blood work. I don't know. How often do you do it?
I do it maybe twice a year.
But in prep.
For labs?
Like when you're running something in prep.
Before and after a cycle.
Okay. I do more than that. When I'm prepping, I do them like every 4 to 6 weeks when I'm on cycle.
Yeah, that's best case scenario.
But mine's also like because I have to mitigate my
autoimmune. Yeah. So that's the thing too. Like it depends on like your pre-existing health conditions. What are you looking like? Like, are you on HRT prescribed because you have low testosterone, low estrogen, low progesterone? Because there's a certain amount of this where it's like you're bringing your hormones into healthy, normal ranges, and then whatever you stack beyond that is partially going to be based on what are you already doing, and then what's your calorie intake looking like? What's your cardio looking like? What's your food intake looking like? Like how hard are we pushing there? How often are you training? What's your training split looking like? So I think that there's so much that goes into it. There's hormonal routes, there's non-hormonal routes. There are so many different things, especially now with like peptides gaining popularity. There's like peptides gaining popularity. More people I feel like are kind of leaning away from SARMs. And yeah, that's an area that I think a lot more research is happening and more is just being put out there and learned by a lot of people.
But really the best answer I can give to that is it depends on you. There's no typical anything for any division.
Or you just jump to a gram a tren.
Yep, that's the way to do it.
When in doubt.
When in doubt, run tren.
Okay. Not a question. Just wanted to send all my love to you two badass women. That was Catherine. She's the bomb.
Love you, Catherine.
Okay, favorite feast mode flavors.
Oh, I have to stay away from the dessert ones when I'm dieting because I will overdo it.
Bottle.
I will just straight eat out of the bottle. I'm not above that, and I'm not gonna lie. Those are dangerous, but I will use like in a not dieting phase when I'm not starving my face off. I'll use the cinnamon honey butter. I think is my favorite for like cream of rice and oats.
And rice cakes.
And
protein ice cream.
Hawaiian barbecue. That new hickory.
Oh, I like that one.
I like that one a lot.
You know what one actually surprised me is I like to put salsa on my food a lot in prep. I like to put salsa on my egg whites. I like to put it on my turkey and lettuce. And so the raspberry chipotle with mild salsa is my jam lately, which I know that sounds weird. Raspberry chipotle. I didn't think I was going to love that one, and I love it. I use it every day. Yeah.
I like the Asiago jalapeno.
Yeah.
That's my jam for eggs.
Yeah. Asiago jalapeno is good. And you know what else? Actually, the cheddar chili. The cheddar chili is really good on egg whites. If you run out of cheddar bacon by accident, the cheddar chili is a completely acceptable substitution there. The cheddar chili also on your turkey and lettuce with salsa is really good too. Honestly, I like almost all the flavors. I use them all equally. Except for Mexican Fiesta. That one's more spicy than I like.
I like most of them. I don't like the Thai foon.
The Thai foon's also not my favorite.
That's not my favorite.
Or the Indian curry. The ones that are a little too spicy. That's just... I'm kind of a wuss when it comes to that.
I'm not usually a big fan of curry, but if you mix the Indian curry with the coconut cream, that's pretty bomb. Like coconut curry.
I would have never guessed that combination. Okay. Thoughts on refeed meals. Free meals, clean foods, but higher in calories and fats.
That also depends on the person.
Like for us? Like
for me, yes.
Off season, maybe.
Lots of refeeds.
Never.
No. I go both ways, and I, if possible, like to leave like a refeed or free meal or something in people's plans as long as they can mitigate it well. But for some people, that's just really hard. It kind of sends them into like bingey tendencies.
Yeah.
And the goal is, in season or off season, I don't want anything to turn into an episode where we're spiraling and we can't control the eating. So depending on the person, I love to keep a refeed in there. I love to keep some flexibility because it makes it a little bit more sustainable. When even if you only have like one thing all week that you look forward to is you get to have a burger and fries with your husband or your girlfriend or whatever, at the end of the week, then it's nice to have that.
Yeah, I think that, some people can have it all the way up till very close to a show.
That's true.
I've got a girl who's like 4 weeks out right now, and I just gave her a refeed too. So it's like, it depends too. Like I would say there's a difference between a refeed meal versus a macro meal versus a cheat meal. Those are like 3 different things.
Yeah.
I think that a refeed is like your coach is telling you to eat this thing. Go get a steak with a side of potato, no butter, and asparagus. Or go get a plain burger on a gluten-free bun with sweet potato fries.
That's for a purpose.
Yes, that's because you're trying to achieve a result, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then a macro meal is, okay, skip a couple meals on your plan. You have this many calories to go, pick something, try and make sure it has some protein in it. And then that gives even a little bit more flexibility. And then there's like the full-on cheat meal, which I would say is the most rare, but like some people, I do have girls eating like 3,000 calories sometimes or more. And it's like, hey, once a week, go get what you want. No calorie count, maybe skip your last meal, enjoy a night out, and obviously it's like a meal. It's not going to be like dinner, dessert, drinks, and then brunch the next day, but or it's not supposed to be that. That's not the intention there.
That's not the intent. Sometimes that's what happens.
Like a cheat meal, that would be like a cheat day, but like a cheat meal, I would say doesn't really have a calorie ceiling. That's for a very like high, fast metabolism person that can kind of get away with it, or that needs it even because they just need calories. Okay. Do you want to go for yours?
I've got biggest mistakes that new competitors make during their first prep.
There's a lot of mistakes.
So I think they can go, depending, it can go a couple of different ways. I'll say what I see a lot of the time for people when it's their very first contest prep, it's usually the most diligent that they are because they don't know what they can get away with yet, right? So you have no idea what's going to happen. You have no idea how any of this works. So you are just like nads hard on your foods, on measuring, on consistency, everything. And then after the first one, people usually are like, oh, well, I could probably, do this instead of this. Or they start playing with macros a little bit more to see what they can get away with.
I've seen that.
Yeah.
I've also seen like in peak week, like, oh, you mean I'm supposed to be weighing my meat cooked? And I'm like, this whole time, like anytime I get a new client, I'm like, we're going to weigh our protein cooked. I go over measurements, I go over weights, I go over how we're going to do things, because that's happened where it's like somebody makes a mistake consistently all the way through. And it's like, hold on.
So I guess the mistake would be if you have even the slightest question, or maybe some kind of like slight you don't fully comprehend, ask.
Or you know what else I see? Those probiotic drinks that have like sugar and calories. People will drink like the kombucha. They'll be like, well, but kombucha is healthy. Or like a lot of times I would say new competitors who don't know any better, like they'll look at edamame, the dried edamame, and they'll be like, but that's veggies, right? Or like they'll interchange fruits and vegetables. I've seen that too. Like I didn't want the vegetables, so I just had pineapple instead. And I've seen it all, guys. First contest preps, like people those are real situations that have come up. I'm trying to think of what else. Boba tea. People don't realize there's calories in boba tea, like the tapioca things, and they'll drink it every day. Or,
oh my gosh, there's so much calories in those.
Beverage it, yeah.
It's insane.
Or like people will get into these habits, I think, that maybe they don't even realize that they do, and it's such a thing for them. Like they'll have this thing that they do every morning with their coffee. Like they'll put, I don't know, some type of like keto fat bomb, healthy collagen complex that has a lot of calories in it.
So there's a pattern that I'm picking up on here, and it is something that I've experienced too, is that people don't think about the calories that you drink. I have had that with a couple of people. One girl who's like 4 weeks out from a competition and just not making progress and not making progress and not making progress. And in her weight actually goes up. I'm like, what is going on? She's like, oh, well, I've been really tired this week. So instead of having just one Frappuccino, I had two. You are drinking like 700 extra calories.
Yeah, that's a lot. And those are bad calories.
Those are bad.
Those are bad calories. So I would say that that's the most common thing is there's something that's so routine for them that they don't realize that they shouldn't be doing, or maybe they're like not sure. They're like, oh, it's not going to make that big of a difference. You know,
Just ask.
Yeah.
There's no stupid questions. That's like, you should be able to ask your coach anything, and if they cannot answer, you should ask yourself why they can't answer your questions.
Yeah, for sure. I would say those are the biggest ones, though.
Yeah.
It usually has to do with some type of food measuring thing, or a thing that they didn't realize had calories that does that they shouldn't be having, or, you know, maybe sometimes people get in habit and they're afraid their coach is going to take away something that they really like. And that's where, like, I try to come from, you know, it's not my goal to like take away like the one thing a day, like your coffee that makes you happy. It's my goal to find an acceptable substitution that's going to reach your goals, but also satisfy you. And I think that there's always a happy medium. And sometimes people can be a bit closed-minded. They're like, well, I need this creamer in my coffee. I need this specific creamer because I've had it every day for 4 years. And so I'll usually start with working around that objection. But eventually, like, I do try to be like, hey, well, maybe we could try this one. Or we've tried a lot of shit, a lot of different items.
Yeah.
Like from, you know, like non-dairy to sugar-free to like all these different idea concoction things. And so I feel like I have a good idea of like, for somebody who has this thing, this would be an acceptable substitution or a way to work them towards something lower in calories and step that way. But that's another one I think is, even if people know, but they're afraid.
Communicate.
Yes.
If there is something that, again, it comes down to, if it's like, if I have this on my plan, and it might be something just like coffee creamer, it might just be that like that little snack that you look forward to in the day. I always try to keep that in as long as I can. You know, final couple weeks of contest prep or something entirely different, but up until then, like, I want you to be able to stick to it. Like, we will find a balance, we'll find a medium. So just communicate with your coach always.
Yeah. And then, okay, last question. How do you do check-ins? Videos or just text? Can we message during the week 24/7? So I think we do check-ins pretty similarly. Always video responses to a check-in.
Yeah.
And we're pretty much, I'm available for messaging every day. Like, I might,
all the time.
If you message me at like 9 p.m. on a weekday, like, I'm not always logged in checking or but like the following morning you get a response very promptly. Yeah. I would like to say even on weekends, like no more than a 24-hour response time, and that's like the max. I'm on, logged in, looking at messages, looking at people, looking at check-ins every single day of the week. So
same.
Yeah, so you can expect a response from either of us very immediately. And I think, you know, especially too, like knowing a lot of other coaches, knowing how other people do things, we have coaches. It's our level of service. I would say that's something I pride myself on, because I want to be there for my athletes. I don't think, and there's nothing wrong with that. Different coaches have different boundaries. I think we love this, you know, for real. Like, it fills my cup, and I have no problem logging on every day and checking things. I feel like there's nothing wrong with coaches setting boundaries, but I have so little boundaries because I don't know. Like, I don't think a 24-hour response time is unreasonable. But
I don't think that's unreasonable. I do set boundaries with like my check-in days and times, especially when we're in contest season, because, and the way I try to explain it is that, like, when we travel for shows, it's usually either Thursday night or Friday morning. We travel, you know, for the show on Saturday, we come home on Sunday. So I'm traveling either Thursday night and then Sunday, Thursday night or Friday morning and Sunday, so that I can spend time with my athletes that are competing. Just like anybody else, I would give them the same respect. So I want to be there for those people in person when I'm traveling. I want to be present. And when I'm not traveling, For my people who are competing like tomorrow, I'll be in contact with them all day. We'll be doing, either phone calls or FaceTime if they need it. I'll be messaging them back and forth. Like, they have my attention on their show day. So I do draw a boundary with my check-ins so that it doesn't interfere mostly with competition, but I am still reachable and will always be a 24-hour response. I think my biggest lag time is if I'm like at a show.
Yeah, I do check-ins Monday through Thursday, and if somebody checks in Friday through Sunday, they know that, like, depending on if I'm traveling for a show, I take a lot of appointments on the weekends, especially posing appointments, or like a lot of times I'm doing show or contest related things. We go to a lot of seminars and stuff. So if that's the case, you might not get a same day response. But I mean, I'm very transparent. We're very transparent with everybody we work with. So it's like, they know that it's like, hey, Monday through Thursday, you're guaranteed a same day response. Friday, Saturday, Sunday, depending on the weekend, we do our best. If we can, awesome. If we can't, then I think that as long, the communication's there and our athletes are very understanding for sure.
Yeah.
So that wraps up this Q&A. Thank you guys so much for watching. Thank you guys for the questions that you asked. If you guys like asking us questions, this is something I think we should just try to do at least every once in a while.
Yeah.
But I think more content, we're just going to keep going with like the training, the food, and all that stuff because that seems to be going well. So if there's something else you guys want to see that we're not posting, of course, drop it in the comments. But otherwise, we'll see you next time.
And questions. If you have more questions, drop them here.
Drop them here. Okay. Boom.